Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this workshop today. My name is Alessandro Pitito from the Synergies and Clustering between EMFF project team, and I'm going to be your master of ceremonies today. As any good master of ceremonies, I am not supposed to be talking too much today. And also because we have a very tight agenda, and the workshop will run for 3 hours until 1 o'clock. And we know that by that time, many of you would like to have lunch. So we aim to finish everything on time. For this reason, I'm just gonna read you a few basic rules or remarks to make sure that our workshop is delivered on time. So this is, first of all, please make sure that your full name and affiliation are displayed. If you haven't named yourself correctly, please take a chance now to rename you. And to change your name, you can click on the participants button at the bottom, or well, at the top of the screen. It depends on where you have your menu bar here. Next, hover your mouse over your name in the participant list on the right side of the Zoom window, click on more and then on rename. Please, full name and affiliation. If you're a project beneficiary, indicate your project. If you're a member of the Coherence panel or from the EU Commission, please let us know for which DG or agency or program you work for. This is very important because in the second part of the workshop, we're going to assign all participants to breakout rooms, and to be sure that you'll be assigned to the right room, we've got to know who you are. So that is the only reason why. When in plenary is where we are now, if you want to ask a question to a speaker, please use the chat. We expect a large number of participants, so for obvious reasons, we can't open your microphone, so we'll have to use the chat. My colleagues and I will have a look on the chat. I'll read questions from the chat to speakers, and if by any chance we don't have time to answer all the questions, I'm asking my speakers today to keep an eye on the chat and address as many questions as they can in writing after their speech. If there's a question that remains unanswered, don't worry, we're going to keep a log of this chat and we will reply after the workshop. Now, the meeting is being recorded, as you know, and the recording will be uploaded on the YouTube channel of the project. If you don't want to appear in the recording, please make sure your webcam remains turned off throughout the meeting. Make sure you attend the breakout session. That is the second session around 11:35. Don't go away, the best comes last. That is an interactive session. I bet it's going to be very exciting. For any problem during the meeting, please send a chat message to my colleague Marco. You'll find him in the participant list. Enough. I would like to now give the floor to the first speaker, the host. This project is managed by CINEA, and I'm leaving the floor to Charlotte Jagot from CINEA. Over to you, Charlotte.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. Welcome, everyone. So we're very glad to welcome you this morning on behalf of the European Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency, in short, CINEA. And I will present you a very brief introduction just to put the context of this contract and of this workshop within the contract. So basically, this contract about clustering and synergies between EMFF projects has several dimensions. One on evaluation, and what we want to know here is the impact of the grant of EU public money on the beneficiaries. And this workshop today is addressing this fact indeed very closely. It's very focused on that, because what we want to know, what we want to have with this public money impact on the beneficiaries. So the products and everything that is produced during a project can continue after the grant, and that this can be commercialized, or that activities can be self-funded. And basically this workshop is exactly about that point, and that's why it's going to be very, very interesting. Another activity of this contract is clustering of projects, and for that we have a web page on the Maritime Forum that I'm sure Alessandro will remind you of at the end of the workshop, where you will be able to find all information about the projects, the topics they address, stories about the projects. And finally, we have a dimension of networking activities, and this workshop is also part of this activity. It is a workshop that was planned in terms of the contract on financial engineering. Okay, so in EMFF, we have a varied portfolio of projects. We have projects on skills, and we had projects at the end of the program really strongly focused on commercialization, access to market, and overcoming the valley of death. How do we reconcile all these? How do we make sure there is life after the grant for all those projects? Well, that's the challenge that we're going to address in this workshop, and there is something for all of you there. You will see that in the breakout rooms. There are projects which seem to have little inherent commercial value. We may think of projects on skills, for example, but there is also something for them in this workshop because they would benefit also from being more financial literate and make sure they improve their plans for life after the grant. So here it is just an image to show how varied our portfolio of EMFF projects is. So we have those projects on skills with research and industry and education, those projects on Blue Labs, for example, where you had research consortia working with SMEs, really at the interface between research and commercial exploitation. And towards the end of the program, EMFF, we really had projects targeted to SMEs and commercialization exclusively. So you see that the population of projects and population in this workshop of beneficiaries is varied. Let me just finish with this slide. So this is showing a bit more accurately the various features of the project and the call they were funded under. So you see here again, different purposes, different kind of applicants in the various calls, different TRLs and requirement addressed. And so there was an evolution in the funding between 2016 and 2019, as you can see. We, at the end of the program, we really focused more on access to market investment. And this is where also the BlueInvest platform came in. For the last two calls, for example, it supported very much the implementation of the call. And we're working together for that with DG MARE and the BlueInvest platform. And I think I have said enough, so I will pass the floor to Claus to explain a bit more the policy context behind all this evolution.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlotte. Nice slides. Can you see me?
Yes, we can, Claus. And you now
Alessandro,
have
there you
control over your presentation. You can just go on.
Okay.
And
very good. So yeah, I mean, as Charlotte said, this is exactly what we did. So basically, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the journey towards BlueInvest and the kind of policy context and how we see the investment landscape. And Alessandro, I don't have a timer here, so remind me when my 5 minutes are over, and then we'll see how to wrap it up quickly. Basically, since 2016, Charlotte said that already, we kind of experimented in the framework of, stimulating blue growth, that it was then called, now it's called sustainable blue growth, stimulating investment and innovation in the blue economy, starting out, and experimenting with different formats of calls. And so our journey led us to then focusing on building a fully fledged innovation and investment platform with a curated project pipeline rather than taking these decisions ourselves, which innovations to support, we'll push this out to the investment community, and we help to strengthen the investment landscape also through the development of financial instruments leveraging private capital rather than spending the limited amount of money we have on grants. Next slide, please. The overarching policy goal of kind of a policy context, as you all know, is of course the Green Deal. Next slide. Last year, DG MARE published a communication to show a little bit, to set a little bit an agenda for transforming the blue economy on the one hand, because the blue economy, as any other sector of our economy and society, needs to become greener and transform itself to achieve our climate and biodiversity goals. On the other, because the blue economy can actually contribute quite a number of solutions. So all along these emerging value chains on decarbonization, biodiversity, responsible food system, circularity, there are blue economy solutions waiting to be brought to the market, to be supported, to be invested in, and that's what that's what we are trying to do, and also supporting this obviously with investment in ocean science and knowledge. Next slide, please. The kind of driver behind this realigning, or let's say market players realigning their strategies, and also providing opportunities for introducing related innovations to the market, is obviously that the Green Deal brings a number of new regulations and modification of existing regulations relevant for the blue economy. Here's just a couple of them on that slide. I won't go further. Important is to know that this is of course also a game changer. The Green Deal and the regulatory context is a game changer for the financial industry, pushing them to reorient their capital flows towards sustainable investment. Obviously, there are also EU actions to kind of massage this investment landscape with a last year, the EU strategy for financing the transition to a sustainable economy was published, which includes new measures, updating financial disclosure, sustainability reporting rules, etc. Mainly for large companies, but more and more also for going towards SMEs at some point in the future. Next slide, please. Now, our view on this investment landscape was shaped by a study we did in 2018, which found that while SMEs are often leading the way on these transformative innovations, they face obstacles in obtaining finance, and there's a funding gap identified of about 60 to 70 billion. That's what the study said, and it also recommended us to set up an investment platform. It said the majority of investors investing in blue firms do not specifically target the blue economy, but they include this to kind of diversify their portfolio. Often there's the sector knowledge among investors is low, their risk perceptions are high, and this is something that characterizes this investor scene. On the other hand, SMEs often lack the investment readiness to match their business skills, and can't really, because of that, access the funds they need and understand properly their own situation in that respect. So BlueInvest, we kind of set up this platform. And Renata is going to tell you more about it. It tackles this dual challenge by working on both sides of the equation, providing coaching support and building this community, and mobilizing investors, but also trying to help create this or strengthen this emerging financial ecosystem for the blue economy. Next slide, please.
Please
very quickly, yes, very quickly, if I get 1-2 more minutes. Policy lessons learned. These are mainly that our approach worked. This connecting the players gives visibility. Targeted assistance accelerates solutions, helps put company on a clear market trajectory. We have found little evidence of a structural shortage of grant Instead, leveraging private finance through financial instruments has contributed to bridging this investment gap at scale and to grow a dedicated equity and ecosystem for the blue economy. The platform has become a go-to place for investors. In the future, we see there's more targeted support, not only for SMEs needed, but for investment managers and other interested assets that are in this blue economy space to help them launch their blue economy dedicated funds. Next slide. Very quickly, the last two slides just show you what we did in terms of building financial instruments. In 2020, we teamed up with the EIF to devise a pilot instrument called BlueInvest-funded that was supported by an FC guarantee, will lead to 300 million to be allocated to companies. These are the 5 venture capital funds that were selected by EIF. That money was deployed. It was very well, the fund was well received, quickly absorbed. There's a strong market interest. So we decided now with InvestEU, take this opportunity to scale up. Next slide, last slide. And we just launched that new funding instrument, which mobilizes up to 500 million additional EU funds in the next 7 years, which will result in up to 1.5 billion of risk finance to be made available to the market through intermediaries such as VC funds, national public development banks, impact investment funds. And those intermediaries obviously again will be selected by EIF based on a call. I think there was another last slide, just show you these are the targeted investors. And these are the ones that, we will also support now in the new phase. BlueInvest 2 will provide comprehensive and tailored capacity building, enabling investors at different levels of sector maturity to specialize their investment strategies into blue economy related areas. And now Renata will give you, I think, his next presentation, more insight into what BlueInvest can offer for you.
Yeah, well, thank Klaus, but Renata will come right after next presentation, actually, because now it's the turn of the European Investment Bank.
Ah, very good, but that's also complimentary. Thank you.
Yeah, because we our work here is to ensure that there can be a clear path after a grant. So we want to hear about all the opportunities that our project beneficiaries may have, and there clearly are some interesting opportunities also in the framework of the European Investment Bank. It's for this reason that without further ado, I'd like to leave the floor. We have a double act here, actually. We're going to have first Antonella Calvia-Götz from the European Investment Bank, and right after her, Alberto Casorati, again from the bank. But now, Antonella, you have control over the presentation. Over to you, please.
Well, dear organizers, dear members of the Maritime Synergy and Clustering community, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to address you together with my colleague Alberto at this workshop on financial engineering, talking about the IB opportunities and eligibility condition, specifically for ocean technologies and services. So really life after grants. So I work as a lead advisor in the Digital Infrastructure Division of the Project Directorate of the European Investment Bank, focusing on supporting ocean and space entrepreneurs. So today, diving in the IB funding opportunities, I will cover the following topics. The IB is at the waterfront of the blue economy. I will explain why we need to scale up innovative solution, how we are building all together an ocean digital technology ecosystem, the type of ocean technology and digital roadmap that we are envisaging, and I will talk about the blue eligibility before handing the floor to my colleague who will explain the financial eligibility for companies that can be funded by the bank. So the IB is at the forefront of the blue economy very actively. We have been co-founder of the Sustainable Blue Economy Financing Principle in 2018. We launched a very successful initiative called Clean Ocean Initiative, mainly to combat plastic pollution and discharges to the water, together with other international financial institutions. We have now a target of 4 billion. We have been the first to fund offshore wind demonstration plants, and we have built significant capacity since 2002. Fundamental strategy on blue economy is our blue SOS, Sustainable Ocean Strategy, that encompasses sectors like green shipping, coastal management, sustainable fishing and aquaculture, and blue technologies. And the target is about 2.5 billion. As Claus was mentioning, the IF has been very active. This figure of 150 million looks at the past, but the future is even more promising, with 500 million already earmarked for the blue economy. Naturally, we have a very close collaboration with European partners and also for Asian partners, including the Asian Development Banks. So we are trying to say in the lighthouse for funding in all the countries where the European Union has a mandate. So let me focus now on why we need to scale up ocean technologies and blue digital system in Europe. Europe has many projects, many pilots have been funded in domain ranging from offshore energies to green shipping, and sometimes we are really the first in the class worldwide. We have also new blue digital systems that are emerging, involving artificial intelligence, cloud computing, the Internet of the Things, automation, robotics, high-performance sensor solutions. However, the uptake of ocean innovation and digital solution is slower than in other sectors because it's much riskier to deploy ocean technologies. And certainly uneven across European countries and regions, with some clusters positioned about France, Spain, Nordic countries, but other countries are really behind. Meanwhile, we have a very strong competition from the US and Asia that are pressing through foreign direct investment to acquire stakes in startups. That's why it's urgent for us to scale up investment in the ocean technology and blue digital solution, also to retain this technology that we help to develop, and to ensure that through this technology, we build up a strategic autonomy and competitiveness. So the scope here is to build an integrated financial ecosystem. We know that some demonstration projects ready to be deployed that have been funded via grants and blue entrepreneurs are asking us now to engage for the development of this solution and making sure that Europe remain on the leading role, on the leadership. So what it takes to act all together, exactly what we are doing together today. Stakeholders engagement, interinstitutional collaboration and investments at the different stages of the development are the building blocks for combining all these advances into functional and effective ocean technology and digital system, which means evaluation is key to the equation. We know that in the US, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as part of the US Department of Commerce, centralized funding for ocean research, and at a level that we could not foresee in Europe because the national legislation prevail when it comes to blue sectors. So developments in the US can be covered up to 60% by now, which gives a very strong competitive advantage to American entrepreneurs. Also, CINEA provides a variety of programs specifically designed for oceanographic research and development. So in Europe, we need to work together to build an integrated financial ecosystem so that we can identify the most promising and advanced project and match all projects to the right investors, I could say, without delays. So the roadmap for the European ocean advanced innovation that we could envisage today to really benefit of the estimated 600 billion of resources is to focus on innovation and make sure that European companies lead in this process. So blue innovation entails building, and the wording is shared with our Commission and CINEA colleagues, the magic links. So evaluation, as I was saying, evaluate the merits of the project funded via grants, So evaluating the technology, financial and governance maturity, coordinate among all our actors, and we have many now operating in the blue economy, making sure that we build incubation capabilities also at local level. So the so-called the Blue Digital Labs, and yesterday I had a call about this, possibly becoming one of these digital hubs, setting up a database to follow up the technological readiness development of each project, embodying blue digital indicators, so the blue financial principle, and ensuring that the most advanced projects enter in our
So she got her laptop and she came here, and then she said, I just wanted to present to, I worked on the project, and I said,
please keep your microphone on mute.
I said, well, it's too late. I needed it last week.
Kathy, we
and
can
she
hear
said, oh, but you didn't say. I said, yeah, I know you were sick on Thursday, but normally if I give you, if I give anybody a project and there is a deadline.
Okay, Antonella, please, I've muted everyone. Please now unmute yourself and please go on. You're on mute, Antonella.
We need to make sure that successful projects are nurtured among our network and led to commercialization. And we have an example because now we are funding X-Ocean, which benefited of many various range of grant funding and venture capital funding. So basically, the magic links means that there is a continuity along the value chain between grants, BlueInvest, and eventually IB debt equity. And Alberto will present. Very shortly, I will say that our eligibility for ocean tech and digital project has been expanded to cover basically all public and private ocean monitoring and protection investment. And this should be in line with European policy, meaning using Copernicus Marine Service as a reference, ensuring that we have high modeling for better monitoring, making sure that we overcome fragmentation, that is a major problem in ocean technologies, because very often, I repeat, the bidding are for procurement at national level. And we need to foster what we call the digital twin of the ocean, meaning the innovative digital ocean service technology and infrastructure that can enable traditional sectors such as shipping, fishing, and tourism to improve their sustainability, which means development of new automated sensor and autonomous platform, application of big data and artificial intelligence technologies for data sharing, blue research and education infrastructure, building skills and skill upgrading is key for the success of the blue economy, and the digital system to improve search and rescue at sea. Basically, the bank can also cover all blue economy sector. And if there are projects worth pursuing, as we could say, bankable, please don't hesitate to contact myself. And now I pass the floor to Alberto, who will explain the role of engagement for companies that could be mature to be funded by the bank. Alberto, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Antonella, and thank you everybody for inviting me to present today. I'll try to stick to my 5 minutes. So I'm Alberto Casorati. I'm a part of the lending team at the European Investment Bank, and in particular, I'm part of the team focused on thematic impact finance. Doesn't look like I can change slide, so if you can move to the next one. My team is focused on supporting young and innovative companies that are looking to early commercialization of deployment of new technologies. We have done these activities since 2016 with a focus on the green transitions, where we have signed and we have today a portfolio of over 700 million. We do these activities via venture debt with the support of the European Commission. So we have a mandate with the Commission that from this year is going to be under the InvestEU program that was signed in March between the EIB and the European Commission. And there is a window dedicated to the green transition called ACTIVE, Action for Climate Thematic Impact Finance. Next slide. Under ACTIVE, we can basically provide financing in 5 main sectors. Historically, we have been focusing on energy, mobility, and circular economy, but from this year, we are expanding our focus also on blue economy and bioeconomy and decarbonization of heavy industries. And in the blue economy, we have quite a large mandate, so we can support projects that goes into ocean observation technologies, solutions for coastal biodiversity, new product from blue economy and biotechnology, and multi-purpose offshore platforms. Next slide, please. Our main instrument, as I was mentioning at the beginning, is the venture debt, or what we call the venture debt or quasi-equity instrument. So this is meant to be a patient financing instrument. It typically starts from a ticket of 7.5 million, and it can go up to quite a large amount. We have done transaction up to 75 million. It's an instrument that has a long maturity, so it means to give the opportunity to companies to focus on their growth plan and not scrambling around for new funds. So we have a long maturity that can go up to 5 to 7 years. And our repayment can be bullet. So it means that the financing can be repaid at maturity with no amortization during the life of the loan. As an institution, we have a rule where we can co-invest up to 50% of the total investment plan of the company. So it means that the company needs to have an investment plan of at least 15 million, 1.5, to qualify for our minimum ticket of 7.5 million. Our remuneration, given the high risk of these projects, comes in the form of interest and success-based performance. So it could be a warrant, a revenue sharing mechanism, or royalties. We can also consider ring fence structure, but this is typically for larger companies. Next slide first. Next, please. So this is just to give you an idea of the profile of the companies that we are looking for when we are talking about the venture debt instrument at the EIB. So they obviously need to be in one of the 5 sectors that I presented at the beginning. So obviously in this case, the blue economy would be relevant for us. The investments of the company needs to be located in the EU. And in terms of the profile of the company we are looking at, this is typically beyond the seed stage. So we are looking at companies that they have already completed their seeding funding, and typically they have already raised either a Series A or a Series B. Next slide, please.
And please wrap up, Alberto.
Yes. So quickly, just for your information, as I was mentioning, this is a mandate. So we have a certain eligibility criteria that we need to meet, and as part of our process, we will need to submit such eligibility check with the Commission, and focus on 3 main criteria. 1, the market failure. So basically, this is beyond the risk that commercial lenders will take. Replicability, which talks about market potential and the fact that the company and the technology that they are proving can be replicated in large scales and is not just a one-off project. And innovation. So we need to show that the company is developing a new product or as a new business model or a new technology that it wants to bring to the market. When it comes to bioeconomy and blue economy, the level of innovation goes beyond just a demonstration, but we can also consider projects that are more mature in a way where where they are facing more market acceptance and market risk, and they're more focused on deployment rather than just pure demonstration. Next slide to wrap it up. So this is the process. It's not, I mean, it's fair to say that is a thorough due diligence that you will need to go through. It takes about 6 to 9 months from the initial contact to reach the signing of the venture debt. And so we advise companies to approach us as soon as they feel they are ready, so it can already have an initial screening. And the first step of the process would be, as I was mentioning, to get the Commission to approve the eligibility and be able to work on this project under the active mandate. Next slide. That's basically the wrap up. These are my contacts. If you have a project or you want to discuss or learn more about our team and what we do, these are the contacts. There is a general email where you can submit any question, and also my personal contact. Thank you very much, and happy to answer any questions at any point.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alberto, and thank you, Antonella. That's very interesting. And now for something completely or not so completely different. You know that Claus before mentioned that there is this initiative backed by the European Commission, BlueInvest, and BlueInvest is super interesting. It can support the blue economy and project beneficiaries in a number of ways you probably can't even imagine. But I'd like it to hear it from Renata Peloso from PricewaterhouseCoopers Luxembourg, and Renata is managing BlueInvest. So Renata, you have full control over the presentation, so over to you, please.
Thank you so much. Hi, Alessandro. I would like to give a warm welcome to all the companies that are attending this session today. I think it's really not easy when we have a brilliant idea, when we have a nice concept and we want to bring it to the market. We need all the support that we can get. And I think this is what BlueInvest is here to do. On the segue of the presentations, we saw a lot of different financing mechanisms through the EIB, through the EIF. But the question that remains is how to tap into those opportunities. So me as a small company with my limited resources, how can I prepare myself to this thorough due diligence? How can I prepare myself to be scalable, to have a credible dossier? And that is the concept behind BlueInvest, is creating an ecosystem and a community that allows you to have the right networks, the right setup to grow your business, to tap into the different financing opportunities, and really to boost innovation and investment in sustainable technologies in the blue economy. So all that is nice and sounds really good, but how do we do that concretely? What about BlueInvest? So how do we support investment readiness and how we support your project to access finance through startup and SMEs? We've developed together with CINEA and DigiCirc a very structured market path to innovation-led projects that goes through technical assistance, providing visibility, fostering networking opportunities, and introductions, warming introductions to investors. Our idea is that each one of the projects would have a good visibility over all the debt and equity opportunities they have, either from the public or the private sectors, and that we design together with you the right path for your growth. We have a number of different features to support you on that. I think the core and the underlining feature for us is the BlueInvest community. That's where different stakeholders, business associations, organizations from all the different sectors in the blue economy come together to share ideas, to gain knowledge, to access business intelligence, and so on and so forth. It's also within our community that you'll find the BlueInvest Academy with a realm of different trainings and informations, fact sheets about your sectors, information about different investors, their pipeline, their strategies, and so on. We organize our own events, and we also attend events like this one. So Alessandro, thank you so much for your invitation to continue expanding this network and continue growing in our contacts and making sure that every opportunity is connected. Our BlueInvest pipeline helps you to get the projection and the showcase with the investors. So it's really a front line or a landing page for all our different projects to be showcased. Our readiness assistance, we're going to go in detail in a minute. It's provided by sector and market knowledgeable coaches with long experience in the blue economy, but also in business acceleration. Most of you or some of you in the room today were grant recipients, so we're going to also talk with some of the companies that went through this process from grant to BlueInvest acceleration model through access to funding. And then, of course, all that is enabled by the BlueInvest fund of funds from the EAF, as Claus mentioned earlier today. We are now closing the first cycle of BlueInvest, and if I may say, a very successful one, where over 1,300 companies and investors came together in the BlueInvest community. More than 3,000, almost 4,000 B2B matchmakings were achieved, and more than 190 introductions were done between investors and BlueInvest SMEs. So quite nice statistics and some quite impressive numbers. And 202 beneficiaries came through our whole coaching process and received readiness assistance. We are now launching since a month. We launched the second BlueInvest program, and we are now open for new applications and starting a new coaching process for another 120 companies for the next 2 years. So it's a really good opportunity for you, not just to hear what is there, but also to deep dive and to engage with the program and to discover what we can do for you firsthand. As for the investors, I think there is a lot of questions on, okay, how can this community bring me closer to investor? How can I tap into this private sector? So venture capitalists, private equity, fund of funds, fund managers, how can they know me, but also how can I have a credible introduction to them? So on top of our 4 fund managers that were already introduced by Claus, so Ocean 14, Sophie Nova, Good Harvest Fund, and Swarsasia Ventures that are closely working with the EIF to fundraise and select the best disbursement strategies. We have over 440 investors in our community, spread in all the different groups of investors, from national promotional banks to angel investors, and we will make sure that across your growth strategy, we will be doing the introductions through seed round, round A, round B, to the right stakeholder or to the right interlocutor for you. We also make sure that you get visibility with the right people. We do warm introductions, but we also generate deal flows. So we understand each investor's investment strategy, and we make sure that we create tailored deal flows for them, where we push companies that are significant or relevant for their investment portfolio. So even when you're sleeping, we are working for you, and we're making sure that the information is spread and your name and your company's name is being pushed and being promoted to the right investor profile. As for the readiness assistance, I know that I'm running out of time, so I'm going to try to be very efficient. We want to make you ready for grow. It doesn't mean necessarily that we're only supporting companies that are in their fundraising stage. We're also helping to develop your project, to bring them to the market. We're helping you in your internationalization strategy, finding the gaps that you have, recommending on your business plan, and making sure that by the end you have a strong dossier that supports your grow. Also, we want to make sure that this is not only a report that you get in the end, but concrete actions that are taken throughout the whole 6 months of coaching experience. For those that are staying for the breakout sessions, we are going to talk a little bit more about that. So join the session 3 if you want, but here are some examples of the different readiness assistance packages. So the different groups of knowledge expertise that are provided across our technical assistance. So as early stage as a market readiness, product and innovation, helping your IP protection, all the way to ensuring that your sustainability strategy is sound, that your product is able to assess its own benefits for the client and for the environment. All that is covered across the BlueInvest. Some cool numbers from the last cycle and numbers that we want to continue growing. More than 26 companies already successfully managed to secure capital through BlueInvest. So this is a good starting point. We want to make sure that if they were in round A, that we can continue to support them through round B and C. And we want to make sure that at the point that you get to market ready and your product is ready, we are also there for you. We have a couple of feedbacks that I will not read them out loud, but I'll get you just to discover them in time. So a nice company, a company that raised 1.9 million US dollars, thanks to introductions and also to the help on preparing their dossier, is sharing how we help them secure that. We also have a couple of testimonials on their capacity to get to the market, to find also potential new customers, new clients. So you have the opportunity as well to deep dive on that. And on the segue of the lessons learned that Claus shared, I will also share a couple of things that we've learned from what beneficiaries provided and to us as feedback. So one thing that we really want to make sure is that we demystify the landscape of venture financing. It is not as complex as it seems. And once you understand it, the conversation with investors and with different stakeholders is a lot more smooth. So this is why we're here. We want to make sure that we support on your pitch and on your business plan and on your investors dossier. So having an impressive pitch, yes, very good, but afterwards you have to have a solid documentation and a solid investors dossier that will follow through. So this is why we understand that the process needs, we need to have our hands dirty and we need to get to action. Credible introductions, we said that a number of times, but it's still super relevant. Being introduced to having the credibility and the brand of BlueInvest when doing this introduction really helps you to open some doors. Getting some external perspective from your coach as well that challenges your business assumptions and make sure that we reevaluate some of the principles that might be stoppers for you today when you're going through your fundraising strategy. We help you develop a more resilient business structure on the conditions of COVID, but for any other moments of uncertainties and times of uncertainties, we want to make sure that we have a bulletproof business model that will continue to grow regardless. Of course, we want to make sure that we move you from ideation to execution, sharpen your vision, your mission, your value proposition, and getting you to the next level. So with that being said, we'll continue to deep dive on the different strategies of investment and fundraising during our workshop. We're going to go through pre-seed all the way to around C. We're going to discuss the different profiles of investors. So if you're interested in that, please stay with us. Also, if you want to join our community and apply for the Readiness Assistance Program, don't hesitate to write us a little email and we'll continue in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Renata. And I remind everyone that Renata will be moderating one of the breakout rooms so you can have a chance to further discuss with the possibilities and the options you have through BlueInvest. And now, if by any chance you don't want to believe Renata, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't, well, you can believe our next speaker who benefited from BlueInvest assistance, and now he's here to tell about his story. His name is Enric Villarín from CorPower Ocean. And Enric, you have control of your presentation, so please go on. And just one favor, you know, who comes last always bears greater responsibility. We're already running late, so please, as fast as you can.
Make my best. Thanks for the introduction, Alessandro. So I'm going to talk to all of you about how we have sustained the development of our technology with public funding and how we benefited from the BlueInvest program. So at CorPower.
Sorry, Enric, not sure what happened, but you were on mute. Okay, please.
Okay.
Now, okay, thank you.
Go ahead. So thank you all. Thanks for the introduction, Alessandro. I'm going to talk to you about how we sustained the development of our technology with public funding and how we benefited from the BlueInvest system.
Enric, again, you're on mute.
Every time that I change the slide, I get on mute.
Okay, maybe I can change slides for you then.
All right. Now it's okay, apparently. All right. So at CorPower, we do waste energy devices. With offices around Europe, we have been proving the physics of our technology for 10 years now for a competitive cost of energy. We have engaged with major players in the industry raised more than 60 million euros, and with a team of 70 members and 14 nationalities, we're the biggest team in wave energy. Our mission is to generate clean electricity from the largest untapped energy resource in our planet, which is our ocean wave, which has the potential to produce 10% of the global electricity. We do this by developing high efficient wave energy converters, also known as WECs. And here you can see our half-scale WEC, which was successfully demonstrated in the ocean in 2018 at the EMEFF site in the Orkney Islands in Scotland. We have developed our C4 device, which is the first commercial scale prototype, and we're gonna deploy it and demonstrate it in the ocean this year. So our technology has a composite buoy with that it's attached to the seabed with a pretensioning system, and through the back and forth and raise and fall of the waves, it moves an electromechanical power takeoff inside, which converts the electrical, the mechanical energy from the wave into electricity. And we have a unique phase control technology that we call the wave spring, which is those two little black arms that you see in the middle, which allows to tune and detune our device and adapt it to the ocean. And this gives high survivability in harsh oceans and high efficiency in regular states, which combined give a competitive cost of energy. We're going to deploy this device in the northern Portugal in the Agostinho wave site, where we have established our operational base, and we aim to have an array of 4 and a collection hub by 2024. All of these endeavors have been supported by more than 20 projects that we have joined as a coordinator and partner, then have raised for us 30 million in grants. And as you can see, we have managed to make synergies between European funding, regional funding, and national funding. All of these projects have been following our 5-stage product verification program, which is a best practice for developing wave energy, which consists basically in proving the technology from small scale in tanks and water tanks to half scale in the ocean, full scale where we are right now, above almost about to deploy, and finally with an array demonstration. Financially, we have supported all this TRL scale with a mix of grants and private investments. And all of those have been raised strategically according to our stage of development. So you can see that in 2016, we joined the Wave Boost project, which is Horizon 2020, and we developed our unique technology to demonstrate it in the ocean in our half scale. And at the verge of starting our first full-scale prototype, we joined a lot of projects that help us significantly financially, which allowed to leverage the first private investments. Then when we knew more about our full-scale prototype in 2020, we joined other strategic projects to support this development. And it was the key point where investors put 20 million euros in private investment because they like to leverage grants with their investments. And as you can see, now in 2021, we have joined initiatives to support what's going to be our last stage 5. And one of those was the BlueInvest mentoring sessions. We got a mentoring session with a coach because we started heavily with business development. And since we have a good overview of the European market, we went for a session discussing the US market. And we were very happy to know that apparently this mentor had a wind energy background and knew a lot about the United States market. So this allowed to have very meaningful discussions with him in terms of how wave energy and wind energy align in terms of investment, roadmap, opportunities. He also managed to connect us with a project developer, which is a customer lead and somebody that potentially in the future will be able to do a wave energy side with our technology. He also connected us with a Marine Energy Center, which we hold discussions with if potentially we want to test our technology in the States in the future. And we also had conversations with, he also gave us a list of potential investors and acceleration programs that we have been applying for. And lastly, I wanted to show you a practical example of how this grants and coaching has been used to develop our product and our infrastructure. So here you can see our dry testing infrastructure in Stockholm, and inside of it, there's our power takeoff. And by doing this, we de-risk the machinery before putting it into the water. So we're sure that everything works on land to then put it in the ocean, have reliable operations. And we supported this with national funding. We also supported with national and regional funding from Portugal, our Portuguese office and machine hall. This is CorPower, and this is where we have our OEM operations and also assembly down in Portugal. Inside of this machine hall, there is our own machine developed by a partner, Autonational, from the Netherlands, that allows ourselves to manufacture our own structure instead of going outside to a manufacturer. And finally, with the Ocean AirNet program, we also managed to develop our own anchoring and sustain its installation in the sea. And as you can see, thank you to all of this combination of grants and private investments that led that, we managed to have a complete device developed in-house in order to break through into the ocean energy, which is the next big thing in energy in Europe, helping to balance the grid with our existing renewable technologies. And that's all with me. Welcome any questions you may have.
Brilliant, Enric, brilliant. I encourage participants to reach out via chat with Enric and with the other speakers. Just don't miss a chance to ask your questions to our terrific panel of speakers. Now, what I like about Enric's story is the clear path that is clearly shown. They started with grants. They are project beneficiaries, like the people we are working with for our project. Then they use the grant money to develop something innovative, and then they leverage other possibilities, including other grants from other funding instruments, but then also benefited from BlueInvest assistance, and then they manage to raise capital on the private market as well. It's a clear path from innovation to commercialization, and it worked. And now some of you might think that this only applies for projects that are clearly commercial, except it isn't true, and we hope we can show how this might work for any kind of project, especially in the breakout session. But now BlueInvest isn't a possibility. There are a lot of other possibilities. There's something very interesting that I would also like to tell you about is DigiCirc. And our next speaker is here to tell about that, Maria Bernabé. And DigiCirc is a project itself, but it's also an accelerator for other projects, and it's super interesting. But I'd like you to hear it from Maria. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you very much, Alessandro, for the
please
introduction.
Remember timing, because we're running late, so please do your best.
Yeah, I'm going to do it as fast as possible. So thank you very much, Alessandro, for your introduction. And it's a pleasure for me to be here today with all of you. So I am Maria Bernabé, the DigiCirc project manager at CTN. Today, first of all, I want to introduce CTN, the organization that I am working. CTN is a organization, a non-profit organization that aims to increase the competitiveness, the sector competitiveness, developing, supporting SMEs, developing solution for the blue economy sector. So as you can see in this slide, we are part of a lot of several international and European projects as coordinators, and also, of course, as partners involved. So today I would like to introduce you the DigiCirc project. Yeah, so CTN take part in this project as the main accelerator for the blue economy domain. So our objective is to raise a large amount of innovation actors at national and European level. And also CTN leads the DigiCirc Blue Economy Open Call and its accelerator program to support SMEs during the development of their projects, and also providing support to the DigiCirc ecosystem engagement. And we are part of the Blue Economy mentoring activities. So the main goal of the DigiCirc project is to promote digital innovation for circular economy through 3 strategy sectors: circular cities, blue economy, and bioeconomy. to do so, DigiCirc is building an European ecosystem of cross-border and cross-sectoral stakeholders. Also, the project is developing digital tools and, of course, managing open calls and its accelerator programs. So the project is made up of 11 partners. As you can see in this slide, 3 of them are cluster, 2 developers, 2 business accelerator, 1 expert on systemic design, 1 venture capital firm, one legal firm, and the sustainability consultant. It's missing in this slide, sorry. So this project will receive 5 million euros budget from the European Commission through the 2020 UNOSUC fund. And the project will last 35 months with 3 accelerator programs in the 3 different sectors I mentioned before. 48 circular innovation has been selected, and the budget dedicated to the SMEs is 2.4 million euros. So from May 2020, the beginning of the project until now, DigiCirc has created an ecosystem with more than 300 stakeholders involved. 3 workshops with cluster have been organized, and DigiCirc has launched 3 open calls supporting 100 SMEs, and now 2 accelerator programs has concluded and 1 is ongoing. The bioeconomy is still ongoing. So 75 business lessons are recorded, and also DigiCirc has developed digital tools, 4 digital tools, 261 datasets are available, and 110 posts are published in our info portal platform. So for the Blue Economy Open Call, we were looking for the Blue Economy Open Call at least 15 consortia composed of 2 SMEs. The cross-sectoral was a mandatory requirement, and the cross-border dimension was be appreciated. So this 15 consortia with innovative solution based on digital technologies to create circular value chains. So we were looking for ideas and project concepts with a TRL between 3 and 4 at the beginning of the acceleration in order to they can achieve a TRL between 6 and 8 with a validated prototype at the end of 8 accelerator. So also another mandatory requirement was that this solution should address Blue Economy challenge, at least one of these Blue Economy challenge that you can see in this slide. The idea was to help through this Blue Economy challenge to help increasing sustainability and circularity. Now I go with in depth with the Blue Economy Accelerator program. So these 15 selected consortia for the Blue Economy had access to financial support up to 120,000 euros per consortia for the entire program. Also, they had access to investor and mentors and online and physical courses. Of course, they had also access to our digital platform, as you can see in this slide. So this is an overview of the entire accelerator program. As you can see, the accelerator program is composed by 2 phases. One phase, during one phase, the consortia receive up to 5,000 euros per consortium. Then during the phase 1, they receive 15 euros per consortia, 10,000 euros to the development of their solution, and the rest, the remaining 5,000 for the for travel grants to attend the physical events. So the final phase of this accelerator program is the phase 3. In this phase, only 5 consortia will receive an additional amount, an additional grant of 1,000 euros. So here you can see the main accelerator program elements. The first event for this accelerator program was the kickoff of the program. In the first training event on 1st December, we launched the program. Then the 2 more important elements are the virtual courses and hybrid courses throughout a MOOC platform. So consortia had access to this course, mandatory and optional course, and they have to submit the final assignment after each course. I can't move the slide, Alessandro. Now. So also they had access to meeting with mentors and tutors. These are two typologies of assistant to the 15 consortia. And also they have to submit deliverables at the end of each phase, at the end of phase 1 and phase 2. And the mini demo day was an event organized on 3rd February during the middle of the accelerator to pit at the end of the phase 1, the progress made by 8 consortia. And the final event was held on 27th April to select the 5 winners consortia. So here, to conclude my presentation, I would like to present you the 5 winner solution for during the Blue Economy demo day. We will go in depth in the breakout session with all of them. So now just to mention the 5 consortia: Longroot, Blockchainable, Embarker, SOSCAP, and CIDE. To conclude, we are now in the phase 3. So the expected output for winners is to business development success. So they need to find a first partnership or first customer, and also to achieve to develop the prototype MVP, develop it and validate it in a real environment. So from May 2022 to November 2022, they will have 6 months to continue developing their solution. So thank you very much for your attention. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you have any question, do not hesitate to ask me or to send me an email if you need.
Brilliant, Maria, and thank you very much, because I think we're building an even stronger case to argue that there is indeed life after grants, and we've already seen plenty of opportunities that EMFF and non-EMFF project beneficiaries may exploit to further advance their project. And now something slightly different, enough with the PowerPoint slides. We've had too many so far, and we're getting closer and closer to coffee break. So we're slightly changing the format, and we're going to have a 30-minute panel discussion with 2 great experts. We're going to have Gauthier Clar, who is a senior manager in financial engineering at CINEA. But interestingly, Gauthier has also a very long track record for working in the private sector as a financial engineer. So he's quite a good overview of the issues that are at stake today. And we also have Pierre Erwes, who's a partner to the Blue Forward Fund, which is quite interesting because it's one of the few entirely private investment funds that are targeting the blue economy. But now, without further ado, I think we can stop sharing screen and having a look at our panel. Let's start with Gauthier first.
Yes.
Now, Gauthier, well, first of all, it's quite interesting that there's a financial engineering team in CINEA. I found out thanks to this project. I had no idea. So I'd like to know more about your work in CINEA as a financial engineer, and in particular, if you could just give us a quick overview of the instruments that are available to project beneficiaries in the agency, and also at what is even more important, I guess, we're here to show a path to nurture promising ideas from grants until commercial maturity. I'd like to hear from you, as you have quite a good experience on that. I'd like to hear you more on the role of grants. But please, Gauthier, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alessandro. I hope that you can hear me well. And so good morning to everyone. So I'm Gauthier Clar. I'm a senior manager, financial engineer at CINEA.
Can you please turn on your webcam, Gauthier?
Oh, yeah, I haven't done so. Okay.
No.
Okay,
Thanks.
should be better. And then, of course, I need to make sure that, yeah, the camera is pointing. Okay. Yeah, so good morning, everyone. I'm Gauthier Clar, financial engineer at CINEA. And yes, actually, it's a good idea that Charlotte and yourself called me, and I'm really pleased to let's say to hear what I heard this morning. And of course, I can understand what you said, Alexandro, because the financial engineering team is not really involved in the MFF program that are, let's say, delegated. So the reason why we are not really visible. However, it doesn't mean that we are not interested with the financial engineering team or not interested in the blue economy. Far from it, at least as far as I'm concerned. I've started my career, as you mentioned, a while ago, but in shipping and offshore. So I've kept, you know, kind of proximity and strong interest in this project. And yes, the financial engineering team has a different perspective, and we are not involved maybe in the traditional notion of engineering in terms of designing financial instruments, but still the perspective of our team might be interesting for the audience, I hope, because we're trying to anticipate on what takes place after grant. Within the team, what we do, we are actually we focus on the grants and grant side, and we take part in the design of calls for grants and the implementation of projects. And I was saying that we are kind of interested in anything that is related to the blue economy. And I would like to also to give you some idea of where the program where the financial engineering is involved touch on the blue economic project. And I would like to maybe to give some kind of insight to the audience about what we do, what CINEA does directly under the form of grant for projects that are related to the maritime economy. And at this point, I guess I can mention at least 2 or 3 programs. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but maybe first to mention the Connecting Europe facility. That is a program that is one of the pillars of CINEA that started a while ago, and which is about funding infrastructure. And of course, the world of infrastructure is very broad. Actually, it expands. And under this program, we have obviously two legs or 3 legs, but just to concentrate on transport and energy. So we have self-transport, and under this program, we have different priorities, and some are quite relevant for the maritime and blue economy. For example, we have a priority for maritime ports where we finance, let's say, for example, facility for recuperation of waste. We finance ICT and navigability, let's say, or traffic monitoring system. These kind of things. And we have also the motorway of the sea, where we finance port infrastructure for 2 ports linking to each other. And also not to forget the alternative fuel facility, where which finances, let's say, the transition of the supply chain to the of shipping, for example, or blue economy to more sustainable fuels. For example, funding electricity charging station or hydrogen charging station or any onshore power system. So that's about self-transport. Self-energy, we do a lot, of course, with regard to the blue economy. And just to mention that the self-energy pillar was more dedicated to connection and transmission, but of course that involved undersea cables for sure. And now we also turning to funding through grants, let's say offshore generation, electric generation, wind farms, for example. So that's interesting, but it has to be there has to be a cross-border dimension. So that's it about the CEF program. Another program, and I think it's also very interesting, is the Innovation Fund. Innovation Fund is a fund for decarbonation, but it's obviously there is a word innovation. I'll come back on that because of the design of this instrument. So what can be financed of interest to the audience here? We can be financed, for example, we've seen projects for biofuels for shipping. We have seen project, shipping project for transportation of CO2 for storage underground and under sea, under seabed, and any kind of marine renewable energy would fall under the scope of this innovation fund. And last but not least, I would like to mention something that is revenue for CINEA, but where the financial engineering team is heavily involved, is technical assistance. Technical assistance in the context of InvestEU, and I'm referring here to a program that it's not really a program, but it's a, it's kind of program, but for technical assistance. So it's not grant, but we provide, and the Commission will pay, CINEA will pay for expert providing advisory services directly to promoters, financial advisors. And this name of the program is Green Assist, and Green Assist is the new advisory initiative there that we are actually implementing. We're in the middle of our procurement at the moment, and this is an initiative that we conduct, that is integrated with InvestEU, and we are acting for DG Environment, because the idea here is to provide technical assistance, i.e. advisory for the greening of projects. And of course, that involves maritime projects. So enough about the program, and coming back to, to our role. Our role is about helping in design, and this is where we can anticipate on what happens after grants. And the way we do that is actually trying to, let's say, foresee and anticipate on that, and making sure that the projects that are coming, let's say, they will have the ability to fly by themselves after grants. So normally this is done through the award criteria. And just to give you an example about the Innovation Fund, we have several award criteria, but we look at the financial maturity. That is part of, so we look at first at the innovation, and also to the maturity, and you see obviously that there is a tension between both, because the more innovative, maybe the less mature. But in the Innovation Fund, I mean, we didn't scare away from this tension, so we look at both, and the idea is to find the right balance, and we also look at the scalability. So all terms that I've heard before. So it's what we try to do. We look at the maturity, and we also try to look at the financial maturity. So this means that we look at the business model, and the terms of business model is key for us. And this is why we look at financial angles, but we also look at the socio-economic angle, because we know that a lot of issues are related to market failures, are related to the difficulty of monetize the positive externalities, or not to suffer from negative externalities. So the notion of externalities is at the core of what we do. Let's say the notion of business model is obviously very important for determining the financial maturity. So all this, the business model, the financial maturity, were already built in the award criteria for the innovation fund, and I think that's a way to anticipate on the life after grant. And all this is, and all this crystallized in a notion of financial close that we do review for the innovation fund. So we assess the capacity of the project to reach the financial close, which is a key milestone for sure. And the grant amount that is provided by the innovation fund is actually geared, or some part of it is geared on this achievement of the financial close. I mentioned self-infrastructure. Here we look at another award criteria, which is also relevant to the question and about life after grant, which is a notion of catalytic effect. And we try to estimate what is the amount of grant that is necessary for a project to reach a degree where, with a grant, then the project can fly by itself and not be obliged to come back to ask for another grant. Behind the notion of catalytic effect, we try to estimate, do we make enough, and is it sufficient for the project to fly? So this is also a very financial notion to know exactly what is a tipping point. And so I think the vision of the financial engineers, is that we try to anticipate. We're not trying to, and we try to design the grant so that it's enough, so that afterwards, after getting grant, then the project can obtain the financing that it really wants. That was maybe a long presentation, but I wanted to give you our perspective about financial engineering and what we can do to anticipate on the life after grant.
No, that was quite interesting indeed. I like the change of perspective. And I think that, well, even at the level of the EU Commission, a lot has changed in the last few years, the way the Commission and its agencies approach to grants and projects and investment. And I think this workshop today is testifies this change of paradigm. But now I would like to take the chance and the opportunity to also ask a few questions to the other panelists, while in the meantime I encourage everyone else to ask questions in the chat. As I said before, Pierre Erwes is above all he's a dear friend, but it's not the reason why he's here today. The reason why he's here today is because Pierre is a partner in the Blue Forward Fund, and the Blue Forward Fund to me is quite interesting because it's really one of the few investment funds that are completely private. Why is this important? Because so far we've looked at initiatives that are backed up by public money, which is great. There's nothing wrong. It's amazing, but the fact itself that a private investor is willing to risk their own money with no backup from public finance, it's amazing because it's a proof that the blue economy is real. I mean, it's not just something you read in the work of a consultant like me. It's something that a private investor is willing to bet their money on, which means the potential is true. And now I know I had a previous chat with Pierre before this workshop. Now I know that I'd like him to introduce what Blue Forward Fund is, what projects you're targeting, the eligibility criteria, and so on. But I also know that you just completed the first screening of projects, and I think it might be quite useful for us and for the participants as well to just get the flavor of what the lessons learned are, because by screening, I mean, several hundred projects, you must have a clear idea now where the challenges are. So perhaps you're the one among us who's best positioned to tell us what makes a project sexy to the eye of a private investor. So please, Pierre, over to you.
Thank you, Alessandro, and for this nice introduction. And thank you for inviting me, and thank you, Charlotte, as well, because I know that you're running this program. So indeed, our Blue Fund was the reunion of two personalities and two visions On one side, we have Venture that is managing 1 billion in assets with a very famous fund like Health for Life that is 250 million, and that has been, the pioneer in the microbiome, and BioMarine, which has been launched in 2008, and BioMarine was the first international investment platform, and each BioMarine convention was generating the worth year from 50 to 500 million euros in this. So indeed, we know very well, what the blue economy is, and over the last 7 years, we've seen, some major shift and evolutions. 2 years ago, Isabel came to me and said, well, Pierre, I'd like you to join me and to launch this new blue fund, because the blue bioeconomy and the blue economy is getting mature. So we've been thinking about how to prepare the ground, and with an exclusive deal flow of more than 5,000 companies around the world, we decided that we needed to be different. As you mentioned during this presentation, there's a lot of funds that have been generalists and that come, to the blue economy, but we came, from the blue economy and trying, to overlap with the different vertical that we have in the blue, in the other, vertical of Venture. So what is the blue fund? It's, one big network, BioMarine, one exclusive network of experts, and we can mobilize anybody around the world, to assess a technology or a service. And on the other side, it's a key expertise in investing. And so we did our first closing on December 24th, around 45 million euros, with banks, institutions, insurance, and we have also family and corporates, corporate venture funds. The idea is to reach, the 150 million by the end of the year. We are already deploying, the capital, because time is of the essence. And the main difference, I would say, with what I know from my colleagues that are doing, what they can, and they're doing well, is that we want to build an ecosystem. So we want that each part of the portfolio that we will invest will be in full synergy with the other parts of the portfolio. And I'm going to give you an example. We are considering biorefinery, for the seaweed industry, not the usual one, the portable one, with a very radical and different approach that can serve different purpose. That is food, feed, biomaterial, bioplastic, and also decarbonation and bioremediation. So each company where we're going to put some steps will serve the purpose of the global portfolio. And I would say that with the expertise that I've acquired about, the years at BioMarine, we want, to sit in the company as board members and to pick up the phone and call our network, say, well, this company will get you to the next level. And so we really participate actively to the development of the company, which is not quite often the case, because when you have a private equity fund, it's very normative, and you need, to scan a lot of companies, to have, some potential, exits that will make, the fund a success. What we do is to scale, and to consider each case as a potential winner. And depending on what we have anticipated, depending on the situation of the company, depending on their network, we look at the board, we look at, their future ambition, we look at how we're going to bring, the technology together, and we make it a success. So I'll be happy, to disclose some names by the end of, the next month, because we'll be able to more communicate on this. But the typology of the company where we invest, they are not the usual ones. We look first at the CEO vision, and we look at the team. If the team is the type of team that we consider being, successful, then we sit down with them and we look at the numbers. And when we look at the numbers, it's back and forth. So they present a plan and we suggest, what, could be improved, what we can do with them, and how we want to design, the road to the success. So there might be several situations, different scenarios, and we have an expert team of analysts, that will help us, to fine tune the different scenarios. And most importantly, it's, the exit strategy. What we want, for the company and for the fund is to find the best way when we start to invest to prepare the exit. And this is part of our network. Isabel, over the 20 years that she has been developing this venture, she has some very famous LPs, being part of the company. We are bringing in the BioMARE network. And when we have a project, the first thing I'm going to do, and she's going to do, say, well, do you think it's relevant in your future strategy, not the one that is tomorrow, but the one in 5 to 10 years, to have this type of technology? And do you think that if we plug this into your strategy, you're going to make it a success? If the answer is yes, then we have a better chance, to prepare the exit. So to come back, Alessandro, to your initial question about the grant, I think that a grant is essential for a company, depending on the company. You know my position on this. And I think that most of the companies from abroad, they see EU as a golden ticket, because they just have, to set up a European subsidiary to get grants and to participate to this. And so they put a small ticket, to accelerate some of the companies. And in the end, it goes back to the US, to China, to whatever, you name it. So I think that on that side, there is a risk. And if we want to accelerate also the right company with grant process, it's very important, to put milestones. I will never put money for free, in a company where I can't, redirect the course of the development within the time period of the grant. So it's very important that we spend a lot of time with the companies. And I don't know if EU responsibility is to coach, these companies, because, it's very complicated, to be part in many SMEs, but there is a way as an investor, to guide this type of company. And at BioMARE, it's what we do all the time. So when the people come to me and say, well, I've got, this, nice polymer made of seaweed, I say, well, where do you want to go? I say, well, I want to develop this polymer and I'm going to sell it. Say, okay, so let's find, the right tools to help you to get non-dilutive. And sometimes there are many, many innovations in the financial sector where you can, build royalties financing, you can have, depending on the structure. But if you get a grant, I would say that the grant should be used with the right vision. So what you want to achieve with a grant, what will be the multiplicator factor, what you're gonna do with the money that will help you to bounce to the next level, and how to anticipate this. Is it for pre-commercial? Is it for commercial? Is it for technology improvement? So it's very, very difficult, from a very high position, to look at what will be after the grant, but it's an essential step. And this type of work cannot be done, from the top of the pyramid. You have to sit with the company and participate, to their day-to-day development to see how well the grant will be used and for what purpose. So it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. And what Gauthier is saying is that, yes, there should be a way, to support, the companies with their grant and how they're going to optimize this money to make it very profitable. But there's a need, for a permanent position in the company, to look at their numbers, to look at their strategy, and to be really on board and say, well, if we want to make it a success, then you need to listen. And one of the most important component is the board. Most of the SMEs, they are not prepared, for the development that they're going to anticipate. And I always, come to the same conclusion. They come with an idea and say, we're going to raise money. I say, well, this is not the case anymore. These days, you need to structure a board. And what is a board? It's not, famous people, on a paper that can draw communication. It's active people that will, do the work. And I'm part of many SMEs board. When they call me, say, Pierre, I need your help to do this. I pick up my phone. I spend time with them. And it's time consuming, of course. But the success of any potential SMEs rely mostly on the board and on their vision and on their ambition as well. So I would say that there is a mandatory need, for grant. There is a mandatory need for scanning deeply the companies that are applying for grants. And as Charlotte mentioned in the opening, I think that the grant could be also a way to pave the future development of a sector. I take one example, the seaweed industry. We know that Europe is way behind, way behind Australia, Asia, North America, and Africa. Even Africa has more potential than Europe for seaweed development today. And the perspective of grants could be, to accelerate the risky phases, because nobody, as an investor, would like to invest in a farm. So we need to syndicalize, the farms. We need to come up with larger projects. We need to assess the risk, and sometimes the grants, through association or through, I would say, cooperative, could be a good way to de-risk, the future step, which will be the growing step of the industry. And we need lots of seaweed, polymers, for cosmetic, for pharmaceutical, for bioplastic, for food, for replacing of synthesis, E406, E407, E401, you name it. That, if we just switch, the potential, that will create millions of jobs in Europe and around the world. But we need to unlock these bottlenecks, and we need grants, for these small SMEs, for these entrepreneurs, but we need to coach them and to teach them where to go and how to make, the best of this money that is essential. And please, and this is a recommendation, be careful, to the companies that are just, I would say, vitrine in Europe, and that can drive money to accelerate the development of, holding companies that are based elsewhere. So this is one very big risk, because this is public money. I'm very careful, with public money, as I never used it. And so I wish, could be even wiser, for the future development.
Thanks, brilliant. And I saw Gauthier nod your head as Pierre was speaking. I guess what he said resonates with your experience as well. So we're running a bit late, but I was curious, Gauthier, do you think this is the right way to go? Because Pierre also highlighted this need for coaching enterprises, because we immediately we think that companies with innovative ideas need money, need capital. Yes, of course, everyone needs money, but perhaps there's something else that's even more important. And my question was, what we've been talking about today, all these opportunities, is not just money. A grant is supposed to build a critical mass, whereas an investor will never place their money. But then we have BlueInvest, for instance. BlueInvest is good because it can help you raise capital, but in the meantime, it can also help you to increase your financial literacy, to clarify your vision, to structure a board through the coaching and the mentoring and the assistance. And we heard it from the words of someone who received assistance from BlueInvest until they were strong enough to also raise money on the capital market, on the private market. So maybe from an investor like Pierre. So do you think this is the right path, the way to nurture a good idea until it becomes a commercial project? Are we going the right way?
It's a long question. My answer to this one, and actually not prepared, but first of all, yes, many projects have a need for grant, and this is what we call the market failure. And the only way that you can address a market failure, as far as I'm aware, is not obviously to ask lenders. They are too far. Equity may be a venture, but obviously the easiest way and the most natural way to go is for grants. So this is our role. It doesn't mean that we should stop there, and this is what I try to convey by the role of the financial engineering team to think about what's next, and maybe to put ourselves in the shoes of promoters. And we do that by designing award criteria. And I talked about award criteria. It's kind of important. It's not only as a stick or just to penalize or to punish promoters, but it's also, I see it a virtue, let's say, because it helps promoters to understand where they need to go and what they need to acquire in terms of financial literacy. Okay, so I think that by proposing the right award criteria, also financial maturity is one of them. They can acquire the literacy and say, okay, yes, they want these people. The Commission wants me to think about next, and what's next is obviously, let's say, getting some financing or getting some equity. And here, yes, I was nodding at what Pierre was saying about the role for boards. Unfortunately, we at CINEA, we inject grant, and grant does not give right to equity rights by definition, but we do follow the project in terms of implementation. And yes, I obviously I welcome the idea of creating after selection, where we have obviously a constraint in terms of equal treatment and fairness in judgment. But after that, I do welcome the idea of let's say partnership. And then, and yes, I was also noting about the role of people and boards. And the link between the grant and financing is also about let's say working together with the financial community. And the idea behind that is that we do rely a great deal on the position of financial partners. Also, when we do assess the award criteria like financial maturity, and we like projects where funds, venture funds, sometimes lenders do contribute. And what actually is a big plus, and maybe my advice to promoters that may come to innovation fund and the like, is really to team up as early as possible with financial partners, because financial partners will help them to get the literacy in finance, okay, for the smaller promoters, and that gives comfort to us as well. So, you know, it's not grant and then we stop and we start from zero. No, actually it should be, promoters should get into the habit of obviously anticipating discussion with funds and financial partners to better prepare the application, demonstrating that they are ready, or if they are not ready, that's okay. But then they have anticipated on the needs of that. So we see a good, let's say, of course, I welcome this idea of partnering, and we've tried to do that with what we call blending calls. The issue is that, and what we need to, and it's a difficult issue, it's what we call a chicken and egg. So sometimes, you know, they want, promoters need the grant to get financing, and the idea is not to tell them get the grant, get the financing, and come to us for the grant. No, it should be like anticipated. And I think that the role of investment funds and venture fund is obviously to maybe to say, okay, I like this project. So far, this project has applied for a grant. I take the risk because I believe that this project will get the grant. So, you know, we should work around with the financial community to break this chicken and egg issue, because otherwise, you know, and we have also to keep in mind that the grant cycle is obviously longer than a discussion with a project partner. So my advice to sum up is really to anticipate and start early with discussion with financial partners.
And Alessandro, if I may add just
yeah.
one thing, I think that there may be Europe is great, you know, and we are a source of innovation and leadership, but some of the countries like Canada, Australia, US, they have also their own innovation vision. And Australia is doing well, you know, in the seaweed industry. We've been developing with my friend Wade Sound, the professor from Flinders, the MBCRC program, which is, you know, for small companies. So the government is matching $1 for $1 for any type of investment over the 10 years. And they have a recruitment process where they risk, you know, and they check carefully at the beginning what will be the potential of the companies. And when they decide to invest, it's on the long term. So there's a process, you know, of monitoring, you know, the investment carefully with different milestones. And there might be some very good ideas, you know, to share with different countries, including what the Ocean Supercluster is doing in Canada. So I think that the world is becoming very small, and I think that there might be a demand, you know, for increase, you know, in terms potential synergies between the investment vehicle. And that's why we decided to stay global, to be able to translate some of the technology back to Europe or from Europe to different countries, because that will be the future. And it's important.
Yeah, no, I agree. I guess probably there was some time lost at the beginning. As Europe as a whole started a bit late compared with other regions. I see that Klaus raised his hand. Is probably he probably agrees with that. Klaus, please.
Oh, just very quickly, thanks for this very interesting discussion, which harks back to what I said initially. And I always enjoy, Pierre, your interventions, your insight, your deep insight. What I was trying to say is that if you have I mean grants, you know, I come from the regional development world, you know, DG Regio, this huge amount of funds that's been spent on development, regional development since the 1970s, and it was the more and more I looked into individual projects, I found that we should have earlier started putting money aside for revolving instruments, for you know, pushing the financial ecosystem rather than, you know, throwing grants at solutions, and particularly if you don't have a lot of money at it's policy-led investments, but rather than trying, you know, with small amounts of money distorting the market with grants, we should leave it to the professionals and, you know, build up the ecosystem. And this is why initiatives like Pierre's are so important, and that why we hope that, you know, with a little bit of blending we can do with the small amount of funds that we have from the EMFF, we can contribute that, because it's very hard to pick the winners in this market that's driven by competing technologies. And I felt less and less confident that we are the right people as an administration to take those decisions and to accompany the companies the way they need to. So just to throw that in quickly. I very much agree with your vision there, Pierre. Thanks.
And I do agree with yours as well, you know, Klaus, as well as usual.
Yeah, everyone agrees with everybody else. What a wonderful world. And I agree with you all. I think it's good. I think the infrastructure is there, so we're on the right way now. And I appreciate when I said that there's a change of paradigm, a paradigm shift, even the Commission. I want to mean exactly what Klaus said right now, and I think this is very good. A lot of people believe that, you know, changing paradigm is a weakness because it means you failed in the past. In fact, it actually means that it's a sign of intellectual prowess. You can learn from past experiences, and you know, as a species, humans have evolved through trial and error. So this is the right way, and I think we'll probably make up for, I wouldn't say the time lost, but you know, the disadvantage that we have over other areas. I see a couple of questions in the chat. Yeah, there's Sylvie. He's asking if these instruments are relevant, for instance, for company such as hers that is based in France and it's not a small and medium enterprise. Well, Sylvie, if you're staying with us for the breakout session, I can promise, yes, these instruments are a word for every company. Actually, probably more mature companies are, as Pierre said before, or Gauthier, are probably better positioned to access certain instruments, such as, you know, equity investment, for instance. And I think that, yes, that was the question. I would like, we're running a bit late, but we still scheduled to end at 1 p.m. because maybe you didn't realize, but we cheated on the time with the timetable, so we're on track. We now break for coffee, and we'll reconvene in 15 minutes at 12:05 sharp. Please, just one word of advice: don't leave the meeting in the coffee break, because in the meantime we've assigned each of you to a breakout room. If you leave the meeting, it's going to be a mess and will accrue more and more delay, which is something we would like to avoid if we want to end at 1 p.m. sharp. So I guess it's time to enjoy your coffee and stretch your legs. In the meantime, if you take a picture of this QR code, you can subscribe to the Synergies and Clustering online community and to be kept apprised of any new developments. Time for coffee now. Charlotte, sorry, you would like to say something before we break?
Yes, I just wanted to say one thing, because this contract synergies and clustering, I mean, it's about EMFF projects, but you see also from this morning about other projects. DigiCirc under H2020 CorPower showed also the range of funds they've been using. Obviously, Pierre with private investment and other initiatives, Gauthier. So I want to thank also all the colleagues and all the beneficiaries from other programs who have joined this morning. In case they don't stay for the breakout room, welcome to stay in the breakout rooms, but in case we don't see you later, thank you for joining. There are people from Interreg, EEN, Enterprise Europe Network, Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe. So thanks, CEF, our colleagues from CEF. So thank you for joining, and we hope to see you also in the breakout rooms. Thanks.
Yeah. Don't miss the breakout rooms. They're definitely the most interesting part. Now, time for coffee. See you at 12:05 sharp. Okay, it's 12:05 and time to move on with the agenda. We can now start with the second session of our workshop. It's going to be a very interesting session, because now we're going to split participants into 3 breakout rooms where the discussion will get more practical. Okay, we're going to have 3 rooms. Room number 1, it's introduction to post-grant business planning. And this is meant for projects that either are non-commercial by nature. You'll find out that there's a post-grant business planning for you as well. And also for projects who are commercial, but maybe they haven't yet given thought to how to commercialize their projects. Then we have room number 2. Room number 1 is going to be moderated by my colleague Anna Keushitska from the Synergies and Clustering team, and Wasim Imam from Poseidon, also the Synergies and Clustering team, will be your rapporteur. Room number 2, getting market ready. So you're close to the market, but still you will need some finance and capital to scale up your project and go commercial full scale. And this room will be moderated by Maria. Maria, you may remember her presentation on DigiCirc, and the rapporteur will be Rod Capel from Poseidon, again, Synergies and Clustering team. Room number 3, business valuation and equity investment. This is for more mature projects. And this is why this room is going to be moderated by Renata from BlueInvest, and the rapporteur is Vincent Defoe, again from Poseidon, Synergies and Clustering. I also take the opportunity to thank my colleague from Erin Innovation, the other partner to this project. They've organized the first 2 workshops, and they're here today now in listening mode. But enough, it's now time to break out, and now you'll be assigned to a room. If by any chance, okay, participants were assigned based on beneficiaries of projects were assigned based on their registration forms. For the others, we just assigned them based on an arbitrary assessment, which is why we may have got something wrong. If there is the case, don't worry. You can just leave your breakout room, go back to plenary, where you'll find either me or my colleague Marco Guarino. You can send us a message and we'll assign you to another room. Enough. So enjoy your breakout session, and please, Anna, move participants to the breakout rooms. Thank you. Very well, and welcome back to plenary. I hope you enjoyed your breakout sessions. Now, rapporteurs, please keep ready to report on the outcome of the discussion. Please, let's start with room number 1, introduction to post-grant business planning. Wasim, please.
can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'll just move this. I don't know if you guys can see the, okay, sorry, 1 second. So we spent the breakout room 1 focused discussion on how to plan for post-grant. So to use the grant itself for what was called the death valley, when the likelihood of project succeeding is at its lowest, but really to have a plan in place for what's coming after that. So we talked about the importance of having a good business plan, and we spent some time practicing setting up a business plan. And the group was reminded of how useful it is for all types of companies of all sizes to have a business plan, and that it can be quite simple to set up. We also talked about the goal setting and the idea of having an objective for the grant itself, but then also to tie that into the final goal. So how to bridge the gap between the goal of the grant and the final goal of the project. And that's where the business plan comes in. And the group was reminded that without having a goal, it's much harder to track funding. And then after that, we spent some time. So we used the Jamboard to lay out each project's goal versus objective. And just let me see if I can go next slide. And then we spent the rest of the time practicing the 3-sentence business plan. So there's 3 invaluable components which should be in any business plan. And this is actually quite a simple process if you think about your product. What is it and who is it aimed at? How are you going to promote that? Is there a market for it? And is there a need for that? And how will the product or initiative generate revenue? And we each group practiced developing their own business plan. And we were reminded at the end about how important it is in order to have a successful business plan, to think about the viewpoints of each key stakeholder. So the market, does the market need this product, let's say? And how do you convince your investors that there is a market for this? And to also keep in mind that your viewpoint is not the same as theirs. So that was the focus.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. What seemed quite interesting as this first breakout room, I guess it was useful not just to projects that are meant to be commercial, but also for projects that are not commercial by nature, because no matter what your trade is, what your business is, you always going to need a business plan if you want to survive. Even if your project is non-commercial by nature, what I always say is just please remember that Elon Musk in the US, his most successful company is not Tesla, it's SpaceX. And SpaceX has just one client, NASA, and NASA is a public agency. So no matter whether your project is fully commercial, it goes on the private market, you can always find a customer if you do some proper business planning. And I do hope among us, there is the next European Elon Musk, of course. But now room number 2, Rod, please, getting marker ready. Rod, if you're speaking, yes, okay, now we can.
Thanks, Alessandro. Yes. So yeah, maybe within this room there was the next Elon Musk, possibly. Because we heard from the 5 successful projects through the DigiCirc Blue Economy call. We heard from Maria that those projects would receive a further sort of 6 months of support and 100,000 euros, and would be looking to show business development success through increased partnerships and getting their first customers in place or community of users in place, and a prototype or MVP developed and validated in a real environment. And we heard about the specifics of those projects, which were quite varied all around the digital space and how the digital space is addressing a number of inefficiencies in the current system. So in terms of what I got from it anyway, sort of not having heard about the projects before, there's a few commonalities. One was that there was a clear identification of the problems and inefficiencies in current practice in relation to their chosen sector. They clearly demonstrated and in many cases quantified the economic and environmental benefits that their solution would bring. And so they had a very clear value proposition. They had a very good knowledge of the potential customers. So they knew the market need for their software or hardware and the potential size of that market. They demonstrated a clear plan for how to develop their project, and it was apparent that they'd established a number of strategic partners and quite a diverse team that covered all the skills that they needed, including the technical development skills for sure, but also sort of market awareness and market development and the financial skills that they would need as well. So then, you know, we never have enough time, do we, to get into these things, but we did hear that there was clear benefits being provided by DigiCirc to these projects already, such as knowing that investors are likely to expect there's evidence that clients are lined up. So rather than it being purely speculative, that they've got some prospective customers there lined up in advance, and that was pretty much what we got from that. A really interesting range of projects. Now you're on mute.
Yeah. Yes. So room number 3, business valuation and equity investment. Vincent, over to you.
Thanks. Can you see my screen first? Yeah.
In a minute. Yes. Now we can see it.
Okay. So Renata presented funding rising strategies with private capital. I tried to sum up the key outcomes of the breakout session. It was stressed about the need to identify the different types of investors, from pre-incubation, incubation to growth, acceleration, and merger acquisition. A good sign of a future reliable investor is one coaching your ideas. Discussion were about the no one size fits all solution, and the fact that it's interesting to try to get corporate partners as key investors. At the same time, there's a need to mitigate any risk of being absorbed by a strict selection process, having a relevant company board in the company wanting to progress on their project. We also discussed investment decisions. In other regions, in the US, Australia can be quick. It's more appealing at the early stage of the project in developing it. To discuss about the need at the EU level to have a clear effort in increasing this attraction, to have a full financial integrated ecosystem. And one of the solutions is public-private collaborations. We also started to discuss pre-seed and seed stages, but it was at the last minute, so I don't have any key outcome to sum up here. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, unbelievably, it's 1 p.m. and I'm from Italy. When you are, if we wrap up in 5 minutes, it's going to be okay, because in Italy, if you're 5 minutes late, it means that you're actually early. So before we close this meeting, I'd like to check if everyone has any questions or remarks. Please raise your hand or write a message in the chat.
Maybe I can just
please,
add
Renata,
that towards the discussion, a very important point was raised. We focused a lot today in preparing and upskilling companies and SMEs, and Pierre brought a very important point on the need to upskill and also train investors So they are aware about the sector enough to be able to identify the nice opportunities and not miss the next big, what we were calling Elon Musk's, or the next big unicorns. And I think this was a very important point that was raised. And we're definitely looking into that, going towards the second BlueInvest. But I do think it's also something that across the European Commission, EIF, EIB, we're all very aware that we must have also learning paths and progressions and market insights for investors. So I think this is a very important and nice point that I would like to highlight from the discussions.
No, you're right. Absolutely right. Couldn't agree more. And I think it's quite interesting that this project we are doing today, I mean, it's just a small part in the overall framework, but after all, it's about building synergies. And I think that's what we've been doing today. I mean, synergies between projects, between funding instruments, between people. And I think that was very interesting as far as I'm concerned, but of course I might be biased. Anyone else would like to add something before we wrap up? Well,
Alessandro, if I may,
yes,
just
please.
sorry, and without raising it, this was a very good event. Great. I wished we would have had like half an hour more for the discussion, because we were in the middle of a super interesting discussion. It's so hard to get all these. And I'm just a learner here, you know. I didn't have much to contribute to the discussion because I don't work directly with companies. But for me, this was super interesting. I'd like to thank everybody who organized this, and maybe we should, you know, at some point do that again. Charlotte, that was, and the CINEA team, thanks a lot. This was really great. Pity we had so little time.
Yeah, no, you're right. I agree with you as well. Thing is that when we send our post-event surveys, a lot of people complain that the events are too long. So that's it. That's the plain truth. And well, and Renata has just posted a message in the chat, and you know, for companies interested in BlueInvest at direct one-to-one coaching, yes, of course, Renata is happy to follow up, and BlueInvest is there for you. It's a permanent initiative. Well, permanent, yes, for the time being. They just started a new contract,
permanent,
so
yeah.
it will stay with us for quite some time, at least. Well, I think
Alexandro,
yes.
Sorry, I may have a question in the context of building synergies in the EMFF project you are actually running. I was wondering whether a corporate like us and finding synergies with other SMEs, for example, which is very focused. Your fundraising, financing is much focused on SMEs and startups. About building a strategic partnership if we eventually want to partner on synergetic innovations that would and access to the market together. So maybe that would be an interest for me to have some inputs of how to build strategic partnership within this context of a live after grant, EMFF grant in the context of blue economy. Am I clear? Is it okay? Do you understand?
I'm not sure I understood the question, but if some other people from the panelists and the moderators have a clearer idea, maybe they were involved in the discussion. Pierre?
Yeah, please. Just to say thank you to you and to the European Commission for organizing this event. We need more time, for discussion. I agree with Klaus. And I invite you, we're going to have, a 24-hour live session on seaweed. And you're going to meet, with most of the countries that are developing innovation, financial vehicles for investment in the seaweed field on June 2nd. It's a free event, and it's going to be a 24-hour live event with possibilities to network online. So be free, to join and meet with all the people to feed some new ideas and some very good possibilities to fundraise.
Yeah, no, that's a crazy event. It's lots of fun. But I thought you were answering Sylvie's question. So sorry, Sylvie, can you please repeat your question?
Okay, so in the context of the project, clustering and synergies between EMFF-funded projects in the context of blue economy. I would very much would like to explore how to build synergies with other EMFF projects working the same direction.
Okay.
We have identified some. And as this company may be small-scale company, SMEs, I was wondering whether how could we have some advisory services or technical assistance to build a strategic partnership or to explore this possibility to go to market together, let's say, without absorbing things, etc. Just like breakout session 3 mentioned.
Yeah, no, it's crystal clear. Well, about building synergies with other projects that are similar to yours. Well, we're going to organize a series of workshops throughout the project. This project, I mean, and this was a cross-thematic workshop with beneficiaries from projects from different areas of the blue economy. But then again, we'll have other more thematic workshops, for instance, workshops on renewable energy, on fishing, on aquaculture. I think you mentioned your project, I mean starfish, that will be opportunities for you to network with projects that are similar to yours, and that hopefully will contribute to building synergies. And about assistance and coaching, well, that's not the scope of our work, but I would then suggest you reach out to, for instance, BlueInvest, but also the other initiatives that have been mentioned today, including those that are just about to be launched as Green Assist, as Gauthier said. It's being contracted. It will be active over the coming months. But in any case, you can feel free to reach out to us, and we can redirect you to the initiative that may fit your needs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I think that's it then. I just like to tell you what the next steps are. We're going to send you a post-event survey. It helps us fine-tune the organization. I mean, it was noted that perhaps you would have liked, some of you at least, more time for discussion, which is good. Then you also will make available all the presentations on the Maritime Forum. You will receive a link. Don't worry. And in a couple of weeks, we'll also make available the recording. We need some time to edit it, the recording of the workshop, and as well as a workshop report. And also in that case, you going to receive an email from us. And then before we leave, I'd like to thank a few people. Well, first of all, the host, CINEA, the contracting authority, and Charlotte especially, which is great, who's great to work with, by the way, and all the speakers, Claus, Antonella, Alberto, Renata, Enric, Maria, Gauthier, and Pierre, who took their time to be here today for these 3 hours. My partners, Poseidon, we have Rod, Wasim, and Vincent here, and also Erin, who weren't involved in this workshop actively, but they are quite a precious partner as well. And above all, I'd like to thank participants for staying with us this long. Yes, and now I'm the only thing that keeps you away from your lunch, so enough is enough. Thank you very much, and until the next time.